I had a friend who was, oddly enough, he was the VP of marketing at the U.S. Postal Service, and his dad
Oh,
his dad owned a hardware store in a rural city, and his dad was trying to advertise to build his business, and he said, my friend said, Dad, you should really use the mail. I'm at the U.S. Postal Service. It'd be good for us. Mail works. It would be good for you. The stats on mail, by the way, for those who aren't familiar with it, Direct Marketing Association says it returns on average $13 for every dollar invested. So that's one of the highest among advertising mediums if you can properly target people.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast, an auditory journey through the latest in marketing, branding, and advertising. Now, here's your Marketing Expedition guide, Ray Allen.
On this episode of the Marketing Expedition Podcast, I get to speak with Dr. Wilson Zehr, and he is an accomplished entrepreneur, academic, and thought leader in the fields of marketing, innovation, and business strategy, with over 25 years of experience in technology and telecommunications industries. He has founded or participated in 6 large-scale technology startups, raising over $60 million in venture capital funding in his career. And Dr. Zehr holds, of course, a PhD in technology and management from Walden University and has taught at several prestigious universities, including Oregon State University, Portland State University, Concordia University, and currently as an assistant professor at Eastern Oregon University. He shares his expertise by teaching courses in marketing, entrepreneurship, and business strategy. Dr. Zehr is also an active community contributor, serving on various councils and committees, and establishing the Entrepreneurial Club, otherwise known as E-Club, at Eastern Oregon University to inspire and nurture the next generation of entrepreneurs. And we are going to talk about a lot of different things in marketing and his journey, and then specifically talking about how traditional mail merged with digital tactics can help you with your holistic brand growth. But first, it is time now for your Marketing Essentials moment, the basics that you need to help you continue to build your brand and your bottom line. This topic is going to be all about brand consistency across all channels of all of your marketing efforts, okay? So the reason that we want to talk about brand consistency and keeping everything consistent is because that way it avoids confusion in your branding. So we're going to break down the basics that you need to continue making sure that your brand has that message and look and feel, and how important it really is to have on all of the channels that you're using. So let's start with the big picture. Brand consistency builds trust and recognition, and your audience sees that same look and feel message everywhere with the voice, the essence, everything that you have put together in your brand, right? They want to see it on your website, social media, emails, even in person. They want to know exactly who you are and what that brand represents. And this recognition can build credibility and make your brand presence feel professional and reliable. And it also reinforces your brand values, your promises, your brand's personality, all of the things, the tonality, the voice, the things that you represent with that experience that you want people to feel when they're engaging or seeing or hearing about your brand, right? And it helps you stand out in a crowded market, especially if you have a lot of competitors in your market. So that consistency can really help your campaign results. It'll achieve higher engagement and eventually bring a stronger return on all of your marketing investments. So let's share a real world story and why this matters. There was a regional retail chain. I'm not going to name them here because I don't want to get in trouble, but they decided to refresh their brand with a new logo, colors, and tagline, hoping to modernize their image, which great. We always say that we want to maybe refresh our image every 10 years with a new refresh or redo or paying homage to the old, but a new brand can be helpful to reinvigorate that freshness of your brand, staying modern with a new look. But here's where things went sideways. They didn't update their website. It still had their old logos and colors on it. Their social media was a mix of some posts with the old and some with the new, and some posts stuck with the old still consistently, even after they had already done their brand refresh to the new look. And their email receipts and their loyalty program emails still hadn't been updated. Even some of the staff uniforms were the old versus the new. It was very inconsistent. And customers noticed. They thought, well, maybe this organization had been bought out. Others were wondering if maybe the online promotions were legitimate, since they didn't really do the brand refresh where it went across all of the channels. So then customers were thinking maybe it was a scam. They saw emails with one brand color scheme and logo, other emails with the old. And so customer service calls spiked with questions like, is this you, or are these emails really coming from you? Who are they from? And of course, the result, the customer's trust dropped, sales dipped as people were hesitating to redeem offers or think that the emails and text messages and all the things that they were sending out were legit because it was inconsistent. And so then the company had to do a follow-up campaign just to clarify the rebrand and reassure customers, of course, costing extra time and money and all of that. So the lesson here is your brand is only as strong as its weakest, most inconsistent link. And of course, consistency is key to continuing to build that trust and making your brand memorable for all of the right reasons. So when you are going to roll out a brand refresh, make sure all of your ducks are in a row, that you have all of the different channels updated similar time frames so that people aren't confused, right? You're going to want to make sure that the logos and the colors and the fonts and the imagery style and your voice and tone and how you sound in emails and on your social media, and if you have radio ads or if you do connected television on your website, all the different places, and making sure that your messages are updated and that your value proposition is still consistent with those key phrases and terms that you want to incorporate into your brand story. Every touch point that the customers see, from your first impression to the ongoing support, all the way through your company, all the way through what employees are wearing, if they've got logo wear, all of the things, be sure you're ready to go so that you're not confusing your customers, because those inconsistent visuals or messaging from different platforms can all lead to confusion and drop your trust from your clients. So create a simple brand style guide that even is just a one pager, so that everyone is singing from the same sheet of music and you're in harmony, rather than trying to play two different songs at the same time, right? I mean, DJs sort of do that to the beat and it makes it sound good, but you got to make sure that what you're doing is going to be adopted by everybody in the company, so that when you are launching your new image, your new look, all the things, everything is out there. So develop and share that brand style guide with your team and your contractors and anybody else who is associated with you. Make sure you make that announcement so that people understand what's old and new and why you're doing it. People always want to know why. Why did we do this? We wanted a new, modern, fresh look. We wanted to make our new brand in alignment with where we're going with our company, whatever the reasons are, right? And then create some templates for your social media posts, customize your templates to your new look and feel, your emails, your proposals that you're going to send out to hopefully get new clients. Audit all of your channels regularly and fix any of those mismatches, and then communicate changes to everybody involved, both internally and externally, and use good brand management tools to help you with this. There's different types of kits that you can come up with, or, workspace templates, so that people have a digital asset library to tap into anytime they need any elements of your assets, of your digital assets. So go pick a channel right now. And maybe after you're done listening to the podcast, or you can pause it, but go look at your website, go look at your LinkedIn profile, go look at your email signature. Go check for all of the things that you can think of. And is anything off brand? Is there anything that needs updated? And then, of course, be sure to share your brand guide with your team, a social media guide, whatever it is that you're doing. Keeping that consistent look and feel will help continue to build trust and drive the results the way you want them to, right? To continuously get a return on those marketing investments that you spend all of your time and energy and effort in building. So brand consistency is key. All right, now it's time to get into the next part of the podcast. Let's go. Welcome to the Marketing Expedition podcast. I'm your host, Ray Allen. I'm the president and CEO of Peppershock Media and the founder of the Marketing Expedition community. And today I'm with Dr. Wilson Zehr. Welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's just get into a little bit more about you. I know we had the bio earlier, but share a little something that maybe wasn't in your bio that we could all learn from in your journey of what got you to where you are now.
That's a great question. I'm not sure what my bio said at this point. So
it's okay. How about tell me, what area did you grow up in? How about that?
Oh, I grew up in just south of San Francisco, a city called Pacifica, California, okay. Just south of, once again, just south of San Francisco, the California coast. And my first job was not in marketing. My first job was working on cars. I was an auto mechanic.
Okay. Oh, so what transitioned you from being an auto mechanic to what you do now?
I did a lot of things in a period of time after high school. I was an auto mechanic. I was a teamster. I was a millwright in a factory. Did a lot of different jobs. Just decided it wasn't going the direction I wanted. So I went back to college as a 22-year-old freshman, moved to Portland, Oregon, and went to school there and just started a family and never had a reason to go back. So, gotcha. That's kind of where it all started.
And that's where you are now, right?
I am. Yes. I'm in Portland, Oregon still.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit more about some of the things that, from a marketing perspective, would be interesting to our audience, and things that you've done that lended you into this path that you have now.
Well, I can just give you a thumbnail sketch of that path. And then if you want to ask questions about specific pieces of it, we can do that.
Absolutely.
Because there's a ton of stuff we could talk about. I have an undergraduate degree in finance with a minor in computer science. I spent the first 5 or 6 years of my career writing, my professional career writing software. Decided I wanted to, a little more voice in the outcome of the company. So I went back, got an MBA, and worked on my first PhD. Got a job in product marketing. So I was a product line manager for a company called Cadre Technologies. I also managed our strategic relationships with platform vendors. So Dex, Sun, Hewlett Packard, IBM, people like that. Then I went to work for a computer company called Sequent Computers. I managed our global relationship with Oracle Corporation, which is a $300 million business, give or take, for Sequent. And then started doing entrepreneurial things. So I did a startup with Voice over IT. I did a startup with automated direct mail. I worked on a dozen technology startups, raised about $60 million in venture capital, returned much more to investors. In between ventures, when I'm not doing that, I usually teach at the university level. As you can tell, I have a PhD, and actually I've completed the coursework for 3 PhDs at this point, but have one that was granted. And I usually teach marketing, entrepreneurship, finance, and business strategy at the university level, although I've taught all kinds of different things. And I also have an advanced graduate education in data analytics from Harvard University.
You've had a busy career and educational journey. I love it.
And I still play around with cars every once in a while.
Oh, you do. I bet my 17-year-old son absolutely loves cars. So we actually went to the LeMay Car History Museum in Seattle a couple weeks ago, and he was just like a little kid in a candy shop. Yeah, very cool. Well, what is what's your favorite thing to do out of all the things that you get to do in your life and your career and in education? Like, what's the favorite thing for you that you get to either teach or perform or do? What's your favorite?
That's a difficult question. there's just so much. I mean, I have a wide variety of interests. I love spending time with, with family, with friends. So there's personal aspect to that. I'm a kind of lifelong recovering competitive swimmer, so I love to swim um,
I
and get out.
love that you said a lifelong recovering competitive swimmer. That's awesome.
Yeah, no,
Do you still?
when you're an athlete, it's kind of like at some levels, it's almost like a I don't want to say an addiction, but
Right.
a condition. And so we
Yeah.
spend a lot of time trying to learn how to do that just for fun rather than just to compete. Um,
Yeah.
but I've also taught youth, coached youth baseball, youth football for 10 plus years. A lot of different athletic activities that I enjoy doing, hiking, boating. Um, we're fortunate to live in the Pacific Northwest, which is just beautiful. We have another place. We have a summer home in Mosier, Oregon, which is by Hood River, which is in the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area. Beautiful water and mountains, and sort of lots to do there. Um, from a more professional standpoint, marketing. I've done a lot of marketing, as you know, and I enjoy my formal training is at the beginning of my career was in finance and engineering, right? So I'm an engineer at heart. I mean, that's where the working on cars came in too. So I love to be able to build things and create solutions and love to see how all the different pieces fit together and then see it be successful and then fine tune it. And that also involves lifelong learning. I mean, being able to understand new principles, new things people are doing, how it fits together with the existing programs we have. And from a technology standpoint, I mean, it allows us to build new stuff all the time. So um,
Yeah.
the one thing I've never given up at our companies is the product creation side. I mean, I don't code anymore; they won't let me touch anything like that. It takes too long to fix it, I guess. Um,
Oh, sure, sure.
but I get to write
But
the
it's
products.
still there.
I need to identify the market needs, talk to customers. I did write the product specs, test products, and then suggest changes. So that's all pretty fun for me.
Can you give me an example of a time that you went through the process from start to finish? I mean, you said you had some startups, you worked with lots of different companies. Just what are some of the things that you saw that were successful in your career that helped from a marketing, since we're going on a marketing journey, maybe share one of your examples that you thought, yeah, that worked out well because we did all of these wonderful things. What were those things that you did?
Well, there are lots of that. I mean, that's part of the way I found myself into the role of product management. Product management is like running a company within a company, except you don't have to worry about payroll, right? Somebody takes care of all of that.
Nice. Oh, you would hope that they would take care of that.
Well, yeah, they need to take care of that, or we need to find the next opportunity. but, um,
Yeah.
but in that space, I mean, you really start by identifying. The company has a set of needs. The company has wants to address a market space, and they want to do it with the resources they have to work with, and something that fits with their brand, and in most cases, distribution channel. We're not usually starting from scratch with an existing company. So we identify market segments and customer needs and talk with customers, be able to identify the product. And there's actually a model I use called the strategic marketing model that looks at how you put this all together. So you would start out by looking at, ideally, you could start with the technology or the market need. But ideally, we would usually start with the market need because if we can solve a problem that's important to customers or fix a pain point, then it becomes a lot easier to sell the solution because people can understand, oh, that's painful. I get it. You're solving it. If we're just selling new technology, then sometimes that's more of a missionary sell, right? We have to explain to people why that's a good idea. It's not impossible, but it just takes more time. So when I was selling computer aided, case tools, computer aided software engineering tools, in large organizations that have military projects where they have hundreds of people working on a piece of code, and they have they have requirements, documentation requirements to deliver with the software, then that makes sense. But for regular software developers looking at it, they're like, why do I need all that stuff? I just want to write code. I mean, it's way too much overhead, so you have to explain to them, the benefits of, being able to write code that's properly structured, that's documented, that's maintainable, and things of that nature. Anyway, that's an aside. So if we can identify a market need, that's usually best. Once we identify the market need, we're going to identify a product. Oftentimes, once we do that, there's an iteration that occurs, right? Once we identify the product, maybe it doesn't fit the niche quite exactly the way it needs to. So we need to make adjustments either way. That's where the whole idea of a minimum viable product comes to into place, right? We put together something, the simplest, least expensive thing that we can do to put it in front of a customer, let them see it, touch it, experience it, and give us feedback. Because the earlier in the process we can make changes, the less expensive it is to do that, right? If we get ready to launch, or if we have launched a product and it turns out there's some catastrophic flaw in it, it's really expensive, and sometimes you never recover. So if we can do that early on in the process, that helps. So we have the niche, we have the product. We're going to try to identify the price point. Price point is usually a function of one of three things, or some combination of three things. First of all, we don't want to price. First of all, it's cost of goods sold. In most cases, we don't want to sell a product for less than it costs us to build, unless we're doing some kind of razor blade model, right? Where the initial sales price is a loss leader, and we're going to get people to buy materials going forward. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but in most normal cases, cases, cost of goods sold is the foundation. And then we have the value that the product offers, which in the best case is we'd love to be able to capture all the value. That's usually the upper edge. And the third factor is competitors, right? What are other people charging to solve a similar problem? All other things equal, if we're solving a problem equally well, people aren't, unless we have a really strong brand, people aren't likely to pay extra for our solution. If we do have a stronger brand, then maybe slightly more. But, so we work through that process, figure out what the right price point looks like. We have to identify the right distribution channels, whether it's direct, Salesforce, retail, what that looks like. And then the final thing that we do is advertising and promotion. So we have to be able to, make people aware of the product or service we're selling and build preference and drive demand for it. This is all interesting for me because in product management, we're dealing with that whole package of things, the 5 Ps, along with brand and strategy, putting that together. But typically when we talk about marketing and advertising, especially in academia, we're just talking about advertising, we're just talking about ads and AdWords and things we can do for promotion. I guess promotion and communication are the right words, but marketing is much bigger than that. And it starts, if it's done correctly, it starts well before the first ad is ever conceived.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about when you're pricing and you have value, but also perceived value, right? I mean, if your brand is perceived to be, top of the premium, scale of things, then you might be able to get away with charging more. But if no one knows about you or have heard of you before, now you're educating, now you're building the brand, and then maybe sometime you can get to the right price. But also, if you start high, then maybe people will perceive that you have a better product or whatever. So it's like you have to weigh in on where that perception and the value and all of those things combine together to figure out pricing. It's tricky. It really seems like it's a tricky place to be, to try to figure that out just right.
Right. When there are some brands, Apple, Starbucks, Harley Davidson, to name a few, that where they've staked out a place in the marketplace where they just they demand a premium. In terms of just having a price and pricing it a lot more expensively as a form of signaling, saying our product is better. I mean, I've seen it work, but I've also seen it not work. I mean, it's so much better to just identify fundamental value that you're going to sell to people and not cater to maybe even vanity. I mean, there are people who sell products just because they're expensive, and people are going to buy them because they can afford to and no one else can. And there's probably a market. Well, probably there is a market for that. I mean, there's people are still buying Rolexes and
Right.
Luxottica, they sell tons of different things. But
Yeah.
for most products or services, especially in my space, because I deal mostly not with consumers, but with business to business customers, or business customers. So with a business customer, they're usually purchasing based on value. They're purchasing based on the value that your product or service will add to their company. It's usually not just one person making that decision. In marketing and in academia, we would talk about the buying center, all the different people that influence that decision. I think that's a real concept. It's going to depend on the organization who's involved in that decision for different products or different services. But I mean, selling a vanity product in that environment turns out to be, I think, a lot harder.
Yeah, for sure. And it also depends on who's influencing the buyers and what they learn about your product or service, and if they have that trust that whatever it is that you're selling is going to work for them, right?
Sure. Yeah, trust has value too. I mean, there was the old commercial years ago now where they said no one ever got fired for buying IBM. Of course,
Because
that
people
was a long
trusted the brand.
time ago. But I
Yeah.
mean, the concept is still the same. I mean, especially if you're dealing with a buyer who's very risk averse, right? There's like, I'm not going to put my job on the line for some untried solution or some, fly by night solution. I just as soon spend a little bit more, buy the brand name, and then, and know it's going to work, or at least if it doesn't work, I'll have a partner who can stand behind me and figure it out, help me figure it out.
Yeah, that's where good customer service comes in, hopefully, if there's a need. Yeah.
Want to start a podcast but don't know where to begin? At Poderific, we don't just produce podcasts, we help you create auditory experiences that will captivate your audience. Our state-of-the-art podcast recording studio, powered by Peppershock Media, is designed for creators like you. Record with high-quality equipment supported by our expert team, and distribute your podcast across major platforms like Apple and Spotify. Whether you're launching your first episode or you're a seasoned podcaster, we got you covered. Visit Poderific.com today to learn how we can help you produce, record, and share your story with the world. Your podcast deserves to be Poderific.
So tell me about a time where you launched a product and kind of what happened as a result. Like, walk me through the process of what some of the tactics you took and how you were able to successfully get it out into the market. And, what we're talking about here, I mean, you've done several, so pick one that you think would be a great case study to share.
I'm not sure if there's any one in particular. I mean, what I find, especially when I'm teaching marketing, is that the art is maybe lost. I mean, a lot of people have never experienced what a really real product launch looks like, especially today in the internet area where we just put up we put up a new tile and there we are, we're live.
Yeah, ready to go. Yeah.
But traditionally, I mean, if you think about a new product or service, we're putting together, as we're identifying a new product or service, we're also identifying a market window. We have to identify when we want to be in the marketplace because if we're solving a problem, that problem may or may not be there in the future. So we have to make sure, I don't know that we can make sure, but we have to feel comfortable that that opportunity is going to still exist when the product is launched. And it often takes a certain amount of resources to deliver a product, and especially in an organization that may have multiple products, you don't have access to 100% of those resources. So we need to start out by figuring out what that product looks like. especially if it's a minimum viable product, what features we need, what resources we have to work with, what the market window looks like that we want to hit, and how we can apply those resources so we have a product that can satisfy that opportunity in the right time frame. Once we do that, then we can kind of work backwards from there on the market. So that the engineering guys go to work, and they work on creating that product or service. And I guess I'm assuming it's engineering folks. I mean, maybe it's a different kind of service offering where it's not engineering folks, but with a traditional hardware software product. The development team goes to work to build that. And then we start on the marketing side. We look at that market window, and then we work backwards. We say, okay, well, we're going to be live, on November 12th or November 15th, just pulling a date out of the air. Then what do we have to do? Because in an ideal world, on that November 15th, I would love to have a funnel of customers already ready to buy that product. Right. And it's going to depend on if I'm selling online as e-commerce, or if I got a direct sales force, or what have you. But what are all the things I need to do that? If I have a website where I'm putting up a tile for a new product, I have to be able to fulfill it. But then I'm going to have to be able to promote it. And that may be AdWords, that may be email, that may be other kinds of things like that. In those cases, the material required to promote that product takes time to prepare, right? Somehow we're going to have to build the messaging. We're going to have to identify who the buyer is, understand what the value proposition is for that buyer. If I'm dealing with a buyer center, like with a business customer, I may have multiple sets of messages depending on the different audiences involved. I might have one set of messaging for the decision maker, the primary decision maker, and a set of benefits for the primary user, for the CFO, for the CEO. I mean, so depending on who's involved. So I have to figure out what the value proposition is, what the messaging looks like that supports that. And then that messaging has to be turned into advertising materials. And those all have to be ready to advertise the product, probably in advance of rollout of when the product's available, so that we have those leads available. If I have a direct sales force involved, there's even another step of required, because I'm going to have to deliver, or have to develop all the sales materials they're going to use. So that may include sales presentation, price list, objection handlers. I'm going to have to do customer profiles. What does a customer look like? What are their likely objections or questions going to look like? We're going to have to get out and train the sales force so they can look and feel, can actually touch the product and understand how it works, and how they might present that to customers. And we're going to have to do that with enough time so that we can generate some leads and they can start calling. And if you're working backwards, you have to think about other things like references, right? So I'm going to have to, if I want public relations, if I want editors to write about it, typically that means I'm going to have some reference customers who've used it and been successful with that, which means that those customers are going to have to get a beta version or an alpha version of that product well before then. So we're talking about, and each publication might have a different, online. I know it can be rolling because things are digital, but in the old days, I mean, some publications only publish once every 30 days or once a quarter or whatever. So I have to know when that deadline is, how soon the editor needs the stuff before that. Then we have to work backwards and say, how long does a customer need to use it before they're in a position to be referenceable? How long can engineering have, or how quickly can the engineering have something they can play with? And so we have to make sure all of those pieces actually fit together to support our rollout. The other thing I've learned from organizations that have a lot of, especially organizations that do manufacturing, is that adding a new SKU, SKU would be short for shopkeeping unit, right? A new product number or a series of new numbers to support a new product is kind of a big deal. I mean, people have to know how to produce it. They have to know how to inventory it. It has to be in the systems. Um, and people have to know how to work with it. So it turns out that there's a lot of internal systems. The manufacturing folks, if there's physical manufacturing involved, it means a lot of headaches for them if you create a lot of new SKUs. And then the IT guys have to support that through all of the systems, whether that's, you know, um, MRP systems or ordering systems or, reporting systems. So
Lots
there's
to
actually quite
consider when going into it. Yeah.
there's a lot of moving pieces, that
Yeah.
that it's not always easy to see from the outside.
Yeah. People just see what's the final end, launch, and hopefully they're all ready to buy by then.
Right. Well, this is all part of a product, a rollout, or a product, a plan, a rollout plan that needs to be done in advance. So there's quite a bit of work to be done before people ever see a product, if it's done properly.
Well, speaking of products or services, what are you working on right now? You started to tell me a little more about it. And so I'd love for you to share a project that you're on now.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, we're actually the company I'm running today. Actually, we've got a couple we're working on, but I'm spending most of my time right now on a company called Cendix, just Cendix. And Cendix does web to print software, so software that automates the ordering of print products. Our primary brand, where people can buy things, unless they're buying software, is called Zairmail. It's like airmail with a Z on the front. And what Zairmail does is it automates direct mail campaigns. So you upload a document, upload a list, see a preview in real time. You like what you see, you push the button, you're in the mail tomorrow, the next day, about half the cost. And we're talking about real mail. So letters, postcards, self-mailers, that show up in your mailbox at home or work with a stamp on them.
The snail mail, they call it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, except we take the snail out of mail. So that's
right. I like that. There you go. That's a good tagline.
But we've just developed a new product called Speedy. And Speedy is a desktop icon that you can use to send mail. So the basic idea is you have an icon on your desktop, you drop a document on it, whether it's a PDF doc or a Word doc, something like that. Speedy wakes up and says, okay, where do you want it to go? You give it an address, it turns it into a letter and sends it, even if it's just a single piece of mail. The first two pieces of mail are free. There's a program where if you provide referrals, you can keep getting free mail. So if you decide to pay for it, it's slightly more than the cost of a postage stamp, and you don't need an envelope or piece of paper or any of that stuff. It's going to be faster, easier, less expensive, and you can download it for free. www.zairmail.com/speedy. So I would suggest everybody download a copy. At least try your first 2 free letters, and tell us what you think. We'd love to learn more about your experience and see how we can make it better.
And it's spelled differently than your last name, correct?
It is, yeah. Yeah, years ago, Zairmail's a funny brand for us, and it was originally a company. It was sold a couple of times, ended up being part of a very big printing conglomerate, and they didn't know what to do with it. So we ended up buying it back, put it on top of our new software. And
Wait, was it the original name? It was still Zehr already, like when you bought it?
When we formed it, the original company was started on 9/9/99, believe it or not. Oh. I've got the IRS note to prove it, and it's.
I love that.
And it was called Zairmail, and it was a friend of mine from Canada was teasing me when we first started the product. We didn't have a name for the company or the product, and he was calling it Zairmail just to be funny. And I thought, oh, yeah.
Your last name is Zehr, yeah.
We'll show you. So we just named the company like Airmail with a Z on the front. So so it's more named after Airmail than my last name. But it turns out they both kind of go together.
They work together. Branding. It's all about branding and marketing. So wait, tell me, because when you mentioned this, you said that it's more cost effective to do it this way. Explain why. Why would it be more cost effective to use Speedy and Zairmail? I mean, like what about it makes it more cost effective to do it this way than to just, go put a stamp on a letter and send it in the, United States Postal Service? What happens?
Oh, it's a great question. So I talked with another customer yesterday who was a new client of ours. And she's a lawyer in South Carolina, and she's looking for new clients. And one of the things they decided to do is that they would like to provide services to customers who have been sued, right? And the customer may or may not even know it. But what they're able to do is they can go through and they can see the filings, the court filings. And so they get these court filings and they send out a letter saying, it looks like you've been sued. How can we help? And they tried a number of ways to reach those people, but it turned out that mail was the only way that they could really reliably reach them, and with the perception that they're legitimate, right? Because a lot of stuff you get online doesn't feel that way. They tried writing personal letters. That was reasonably successful for them, but then the volume started to climb. So all of a sudden they're doing 200 letters, 300 letters, 1,000 letters. And if you've ever done this process in-house, it's completely laborious, right? You're printing up these letters, you're folding them, you're putting in envelopes, you're trying to make sure the envelope lines up with the letter. You're putting postage on each one, and you're done with that. You need to put it in the mail. And by the way, the 70% of the cost of a mailing is postage. But if you're putting a retail postage stamp on each letter, then you're paying full postage. And the Postal Service has discounts for professional mailers. And so that process, even though it worked from a marketing standpoint for them, it was painful and time consuming and expensive. And there was no way they were going to scale it, where they want to do thousands. Using a tool like Zairmail, literally they upload their letter, they upload a list, it shows them a preview, they push the button, they're done. It's in the mail tomorrow, the next day. On our end, we pre-sort it, so we get postal discounts. We package it, put it in trays, we put labels on it, we present it to the U.S. Postal Service, so it moves very fast. Everything includes barcodes and tracking links, so we can tell when it's processed, printed, mailed, delivered. They'll get an email alert when the letters are actually delivered. So if they want to make follow-up phone calls, they could. And, if things are returned, they'll know about that too. So they could update their database, and all of that entire process is automated. It takes a fraction of the time. And because of the postal discounts, it's going to be a lot less expensive. In this case, they figured out how to do it, but I can also tell you a real life story. I had a friend who was, oddly enough, he was the VP of marketing at the U.S. Postal Service, and his dad, his dad owned a hardware store in a rural city, and his dad was trying to advertise to build his business, and he said, my friend said, Dad, you should really use the mail. I'm at the U.S. Postal Service. It'd be good for us. Mail works. It would be good for you. The stats on mail, by the way, for those who aren't familiar with it, Direct Marketing Association says it returns on average $13 for every dollar invested. So that's one of the highest among advertising mediums if you can properly target people. But my friend said, Dad, if you should use the mail. So Dad, he heard this a number of times, and finally just said, okay, I had enough. I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it a try. So he gets all his stuff together, goes down to the local postal service and goes to the retail counter, and he says, I want to do direct mail. What have you got for me? And so there's just the sound of crickets, right? I mean, so how do you start? How do you get moving? And so Zairmail answers that question for most small to medium business and even very large businesses. We send millions of pieces of mail very quickly. We've got customers that will do 30 or 50,000 pieces of mail 2 or 3 times a week. They give it to us today. It's in the mail tomorrow. We do fulfillment through a distributed network of production partners. So we'll route it electronically as far as it needs to go, as far as we can go, and then we'll produce it near where it needs to be delivered. So it's hybrid technology, and we do a lot of cool software stuff in the cloud to make it faster, easier, more reliable. So
Wow.
that's a lot more than you probably wanted to know. So
No, that's fascinating. I think that is ingenuitive in being able to, innovative and being able to deliver an old way of doing things, but with new technology and new, a fresh spin on how to make it all happen. So that's great. I
exactly.
love it.
Well, so Speedy is, so where does Speedy fit? So that's still you're doing direct mail. So there's postal discounts or 500 piece or more. And most people are doing, um, a little larger batches now. But still, if you decide you want to send a letter today, the way you would probably do that, or most people would do that, you'd sit down, you'd compose a letter, then you're going to have to print it, you're going to have to fold it, you're going to have to insert it, you're going to have to put it in an envelope, and then you'll need a postage stamp from somewhere.
Hmm.
The postage, that's not huge. I mean, people sell them at the grocery store these days, so you can get a postage stamp, you can put it on there, and then you still have to get it in the mailbox. And because because you're preparing it at home, it doesn't have a barcode for tracking or for moving through the mail service, which means it's going to move very slowly. Um,
Right. Right.
if it gets delivered, if it gets there at all, but you'll never know because of the way
Right.
the service is designed. So the way that this is set up today, if you have a letter, you just drop it on Speedy. Speedy says, where does it need to go? You type an address, boom, out it goes. And you just don't worry about any of that. And there are still corporate mailrooms across America where they use something called a postal meter to apply postage to letters. So, they generate hundreds or thousands of letters and they send them through this meter and put postage on. And the primary reason for doing that is to track postage, which is like money for most large organizations. In this case, you have Speedy, you don't need to do that at all. You just drop your letters on the icon and out they go. We take care of postage and it all gets done electronically and it's faster, easier, trackable.
So what does the letter look like? Is it like the automated where it's the variable printing and it looks a little automated? Or I mean, could you do this with something that looked like handwritten? Or is it what does the postage look like? Is it one of the automated kind, or can you personalize it at all?
All of those are possibilities. So the letters, well, if you think about the formats that we mail today, mostly it's letters, postcards, self mailers, and snapbacks. A snapback for us is like, if you've ever gotten a pin for your bank
Mhm.
account, where you tear off the edges and you open it up.
Oh,
The,
mhm.
the technical name for that is a pressure sealed mailer. But we do,
Wow.
those are the four formats that are most common. If you want to think about letter formats, most of what we do is 8.5 by 11. That can be black and white or color. Color's slightly more expensive. You can use any font you want. You can use a handwritten font on it. And you can use that handwritten font inside or on the outside. In terms of envelopes, you can do a double window, which is going to be the least expensive. Double window, single window, or closed face, where you just write on the outside. You can have the address on the outside, or you can have little teaser messages on you put on it. Um,
Mm.
the default for us would be to use an indicia, which indicia is a little box on the outside that says U.S. postage paid. The reason for that is because usually if I use that indicia, we can get a less expensive postage.
Uh,
But you can choose to use a stamp instead. We have a whole selection of different stamps you can choose from. But if you do that, it's full retail postage. There's no pre-sort discount,
mhm.
so it costs a little bit more.
Right.
And somebody's got to put the
Mhm.
stamp on it. We do have customers who, the response rates tend to go up a little bit with color. The response rates tend to go up again a little bit with live stamps. So we have
Mhm.
customers that want
Mhm.
to pay extra for those things. Um,
Yeah. It's
and
all about the perceived value, right? If somebody
well,
took the time to,
one
I
direct
mean, not lick a stamp anymore, but put a stamp on.
Well, and direct mail is more than perceived value because of the fact that most direct mail is ROI based, right? I mean, it's advertising media, so people are going to send out mail, and while it's possible to do brand advertising with mail, and many people do. A lot of what we
Mhm.
work with is response based, right? So we
Mhm.
send people a
Mhm.
letter. We're looking for them to respond and get information or buy something. Um, So we can look at what we spent to send that letter and what our responses look like, and we know what the margins on the product look like, so we can calculate an ROI on that investment. So $13 per every dollar invested, we talked about. That's a stat from the Direct Marketing Association. On our marketing programs, direct mail is very measurable. So it's, as long as our ROIs are positive, hopefully significantly positive, people continue to use it. And the ROI number, I mean, we even go a step beyond that because we're looking at lifetime customer value. So it may be that I touch a customer once and maybe I get them to buy a landscaping service. But once they've signed up as a customer, they're going to have us coming once a month for the next 10 years.
Right.
And so the ROI when we factor in lifetime customer value, that ROI starts looking pretty attractive.
Right.
So
it might have been worth that, regular stamp versus the the other one that's automated. It could have been. It very well could have been.
Right. And so since we're ROI based, we can calculate all that. And we have a question. We just test it. We take 1,000 pieces. We send 500 with a stamp, 500 without a stamp. And we say, what do the results look like? And we use those numbers to drive our decisions on future campaigns. So that all becomes very straightforward. We can do the same kind of testing with A/B testing with different styles of letters. What's the offer? One is free design services. One is 30% off. What do people respond more to? Which one costs us more? And we just put those in a spreadsheet. We look at the numbers and we say, what's best for our business?
That's great. Well, I feel like we could have a conversation pretty much all day long, Dr. Zehr. I really appreciate all of the wisdom that you've been able to share with us. Any parting last final thoughts of what you'd like to share with the Marketing Expedition audience today?
That's kind of wide open, isn't it? I would say that the one thing today in marketing that is challenging is people tend to get fixated on a specific medium. They say, I'm going to do AdWords, or I'm going to do, email, or I'm going to do whatever that tool might be. But speaking of somebody who started their career as a mechanic, we need to think about, and today as a marketer, we need to think about all these things as tools. And so what is the right tool for the right job? What is the product? What is the customer journey? What kind of behavior are we trying to motivate? And what tools are going to allow us to reach that customer and motivate that behavior? Sometimes that's AdWords. We use that in our business too. Sometimes it's direct mail. Sometimes it's email. And we work on political campaigns. Sometimes it's a yard sign or a door hanger or showing up at the local PTA meeting, right? So we need to think in terms of our promotional mix, and what are the tools we need to use that motivate the kind of behavior we're looking for. And if we can do that, then we tend to be more successful. And so that's the general wisdom. And beyond that, I think everybody should just go download Speedy, www.zairmail.com/Sleety. Give it a try. The first 2 letters are free.
I love it. I'm going to have to go check it out now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Well, I really appreciate you being here with us today. Thanks for your time and working on the scheduling with me. I appreciate that.
Happy to do it.
Excellent. And for those of you listening, the best thing that you can do for both of us is share this with others that you know that need to hear exactly what Dr. Zehr had to say today, and what you can share with your students as well, other people that need to know, and spread the word of the Marketing Expedition podcast, and give us a review while you're at it if you wouldn't mind. And until next time, everybody, enjoy your marketing journey.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Want to continue the journey? Don't miss out on new episodes. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com to find out more.